Hi, my name is Marco, and you're listening to the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Us People podcast. I'm your host Savia Rocks, and today I'm humbled to have Marco with me here, who is a matte painter, concept artist, and he also does photography. Thank you so much for coming on the Us People podcast, Marco. How are you?
I'm very fine, thank you, and thank you for having me.
No, I know even before I pressed the record button, we was in a tangent of talking.
Oh, yeah.
So before I lose any more of your gold dust of what you've been telling me, even before we press record, I just want to let all our listeners know exactly what you do, because you've done so much work. We've worked with so many people. You have a caring heart. I can just see and hear from you talking to me before we've started recording that your heart is definitely in the right place. I want to say that and let people know. Oh, no, it definitely is. But one thing I always ask everyone before we go into the depth of what you do as a profession is just to tell us a little bit about your background, which you have told me. But could you tell everyone a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and how that influenced you as a person to be who you are today?
Of course. So first of all, I'm Italian, even if I don't live in Italy anymore. This is where I come from. And in a small town close to Milan in the north of Italy. And I would say that my journey began in the teenage years when definitely I fell in love with storytelling and visuals and movies and video games. And like I was saying to you, it was this was the end of the 80s. So a moment in which certain kind of movies were made, and we didn't have so much, if you will, to dream with. We didn't have the access that we have nowadays to so much content. And so those movies, those video games were really something else. And that's where my passion started. And like I was saying to you, I always loved movies. Of course, I was loving at that time a certain kind of a genre of movies, which is like, action movies, because I was doing a lot of sport. I was doing a lot of martial arts. I was so much into this. And so for me, Van Damme, Steven Seagal, and Bruce Lee were like, gods. And so, and I think it's funny because a lot of people in my industry, they did also martial arts. And I think this is interesting because it's something that definitely signed my youth and even adult years, I could say. And actually, this is something that really helped me in the journey that I've been. But maybe we'll talk about this. But in any case, I remember that at that time, like I was saying, I fell in love with movies, and I was always wondering how can they do this kind of special effects, the explosions, the spaceships and stuff like this. And there was not so much, to rely on in terms of, to try to find information. And I remember watching this TV series called Movie Magic, an American TV series, when they were explaining they were showing the behind scenes of these famous movies of the time. And I had the chance to be able to watch this, and I remember that it was something that really blew my mind, So I immediately thought, okay, this is what I want to do, but I didn't know how, because at that time, computers were not this powerful, and it was not that easy to have access to the softwares. And so I've been able, thanks to a friend, to put my hands on a bootleg copy of 3D animation software.
We've all done that.
Which at that time, I'm sorry?
We've all done that before, got a bootleg copy or something.
Exactly. No, I'll be very honest, so it happens like this, because otherwise having access to those kind of tools was really difficult. Or, like I will tell you later, I had to go to university, but I put my hands on this piece of software, and I remember like it was yesterday, and I was probably 18, 17. Now I'm 44, so quite some time has passed. But I remember like it was yesterday, the feeling that I had when I saw what I could do with the software, you know what I mean? That I could create my own worlds, that I could create my own stories. And that was a moment like a switch. like we were saying before, I had, I think that this was a moment of luck in when you really find what you're born for, let's say, which is nothing crazy. I don't cure cancer, I don't do anything, but that's what, that was my calling. I understood it. It's something that, I felt in that moment, and still to this day, no matter what, I still feel in a different way, if you will, with everything that happened, with a lot of obviously more experience and maturity, but it's about, I think that finding the right passion when you're young, it's a big luck. Then, of course, I was surrounded. I was in a situation in which this could happen because you see, this is luck, because if I were born with different parents, for example, or in different part of the world, that was not what I wouldn't have a chance to go out in the afternoon to play football with my friends. I would be thinking about something else, So, and it's not that, I remember that I really remember with a lot of, with a big smile, my teenage years. So it was like the cradle in which all this could be born. Let's say, all my passion could start. And so I saw this TV series, and so I started, for example, trying to find magazines. There was no internet. I had no access to internet the first years. And so I had to go to the newsstand and to buy this magazine to try to find more information. Then eventually it was a time for me to decide what to do. I had studied languages at school. It was a time for me to choose like a university path. And I decided to do design in Milan because I thought it was the closest thing to computer graphics, because we're talking about 3D, we're talking about computer graphics, and there was an exam of computer graphics in this 5 years. At the time, a university was 5 years, now it's 3. But I decided to attend this university in Milan, which was a little bit of a disappointment. And actually, I'm a dropout of university. I stayed there for 3 years. I did the exam in computer graphics, but overall, it was very theory-based. There was not so much, you know what I mean? And actually, so I remember that I was starting to pass these exams, which had to do, with chemistry, material science, things that, to be honest, I was not that interested into. But there were also courses like photography, for example. There was like filmmaking, like workshops, so very short. But I really enjoyed those, and not so much the rest. And I remember that, I had to go back and forth from Milan to Milan, and coming home, I didn't work so much on preparing my exams, but I opened immediately the softwares and tried to learn on my own how to do 3D animation. You know what I mean? And I had the chance to have parents, my father above all, who saw, even if he was a teacher, he's not with us. He's not with us anymore. And so, yeah. But he had the intelligence of realizing that even if he was a teacher, so you have to understand in those years, and I don't think only in Italy, having a piece of paper, so finishing the university would have in theory allowed you to have a certain kind of job. But actually he saw the passion and what I was putting into this thing that didn't exist, you know what I mean? So it was really difficult even to explain to my parents, okay, I love doing 3D, 3D animation, because there was not so much around, But actually they believed in me, and so I decided to leave university. And at the time I was lucky because I found in Milan a little like 4 months course of 3D animation, which I knew would have been really only scratched the surface, and I should have put 99% of commitment to make something out of it. But I knew that it would have opened the door to me to advertisement in Italy at that time, where, in advertisement, they were, starting to need people with this kind of knowledge, you know what I mean? But if you think about it, at that time, I was so excited because, I could work on something that they would have shown on TV. But actually, it was like the commercial for soap, which was, destroying stains in the washing machine. So something ugly, terrible. In terms of quality, yeah, it was atrocious. But actually, it's something that, it was the beginning. You know what I mean? I was so happy because no matter what, they were starting to pay because eventually I finished the school, just to cut it short. And I started working in the industry, let's say industry in Italy of visual effects. But it was awesome because I started working. So I started earning some money on thing that, on something that I wanted that I loved. Okay. Then to explain a little bit, just the beginning, then if you want, we can talk about the rest, because that was an important moment for me. I mean, I stayed 2 years in Italy. I worked there. I've been able to work on, a lot of advertisement. Of course, the quality was very low, like I was saying. And then also I started working on some movies because there were companies in Italy doing some visual effects for like B movies, like, the American B movies where you see the invasions of bees or tornadoes, this kind of things. Okay. So, but actually it was really fun. It was nice, but unfortunately, I had to face the reality of the country that I was in, and the fact that there was not so much, the culture of an artistic job. So even studios doing visual effects, they were more interested in making money, and they were not into trying to also to push the envelope. And I found myself also in a situation in which I had to fight to be paid, which is ridiculous. Yes, but this is what happened. And so I had the luck, you see, sometimes things happen and maybe it's a sign. I had the luck to know this visual effects supervisor who was very well known. And luckily he was a friend of the owner of a company that I was working for in Milan.
Okay.
Because they were working on a movie, the situation was terrible, obviously, because unfortunately at the time, there was not so much knowledge even in this field in Italy. And fortunately, I can say from what I saw, not so much has changed. So the owner of this company, through friendship, I don't know, had been able to call this guy who was a visual effects supervisor, but top level American, Academy Award winner. So I worked for a few months alongside this guy, and this guy made me understand that if I wanted to do this job in a certain way, I should have said goodbye to Italy and all my friends. And that was an important moment for me, because that's when I decided I had to put things on the balance. Okay, what do I do? Do I stay here where I have my girlfriend, my friends, my family, or do I pack my little bag and leave for the unknown, trying to, fulfill my dream? Because, and that was an important moment, because that's the moment in which I decided, you know what, I will try. And I did it. And that changed completely, because then after that, I've been able to travel a lot. And then maybe you can, I don't know if you have other questions, but then there is the second part, let's say. This was the beginning.
Yeah. It sounds like you've been through a lot, even through the start of what you were doing, Marco. How was it for you to leave your family behind? Because we all know we have an attachment to our families sometimes.
Yes.
How was it for you to pack up?
Please go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, how was it for you to pack up and say, this is my decision, I'm going to leave to process and do my dream? How was that for you?
It was difficult, but at the same time, for example, my father was the one who, no matter what, was supporting me. And even for a father, I think it's difficult to see the son going away. You see, my father was coming from the south of Italy and from a very poor situation. And he has been able, no matter what, to go to the north of Italy, to live, to create a kind of life. So starting from low, let's say, to no matter what, something better. It's not no matter what that then eventually made money and became a CEO or something, but actually he has been able to live a pretty decent life, and actually to be able also to teach me certain things. And one of these things would be that no matter what, we have to try and we have to risk for what we believe in, you know what I mean? So no matter what, I was coming from this kind of mentality from this side, because my mother obviously wanted to have me close to home, you know what I mean? And actually this is something weird, because unfortunately in Italy, no matter if the country is beautiful and we have so many positive things, there is this society, no matter what, is family based. And even nowadays, because of how the situation is also, young guys, it's difficult for them to leave the family. You know what I mean? And so it's a part of the mentality. And actually what I was called to do was the opposite. I had to say goodbye, you know what I mean? But I knew that I wanted to do it, that I would have done, and that I was doing this for myself and to be happy. And I think that in certain part of life, in certain part of our life, I think we have to be a little bit more selfish. I think we have to think about what we want to achieve, because at the end of the day, and I saw it and I see it every day, being fulfilled and being a happy person allows us to be a better person overall and with other people, and to be a better parent. You know, I'm a father now. So because, I mean, you know what, at the end of the day, no matter the difficulties, and maybe then we will talk about this, because every artistic journey is a very difficult journey. I want to say that but I would say we are happy because we're doing something we love. And this is something already a big luck, you know what I mean?
Yes, I definitely agree with you. A lot of people I've spoken to in the past have said they've worked a 9 to 5 and they felt like it was soulless. It was so draining. So for them, it was more a thing of, do I do my dream but not have as much money at first, but then inspired to do what I love. And then from when you do what you love, money will come regardless. I always say to people, and I know the journey, like, well, I'm sure we're going to talk about it, Marco. I know the journey is long, it is hard, it comes with its ups and downs, but the most beautiful thing about the journey is you're doing what you love and you learn from it as you go along. So that's definitely something I am going to talk to you about. But let's go into what you do now. So I had the chance to go onto your website and actually see the visuals of what you do. I know it can be technical of what you do, but just for somebody who is looking to go into this profession, how would you describe to them what you do in the creative way? So if you simplify it.
Yeah, so nowadays I work at the end of the spectrum of the production. So when I work as a concept artist, I work in pre-production. So I work before they go and shoot. Often I work for directors or production designers or art directors, or no matter what, people who, for example, they have the script of the movie or sometimes even the advertisement, but they have to sell it. And so they have to not only show, of course, the script, which is very important, but they have to enrich it with visuals. So I create the illustrations. We create illustrations. They're called keyframes or concept art to be able to sell the product or to be able to solve visual problems. For example, there is in a movie, there is a part, because the writer writes with words, okay? But actually then you have to translate these words and this concept into visuals, because eventually they will become images. And so I help them to develop these looks, to develop these concepts, and there are people doing my job who are specialized in, they are vehicle designers. For example, in a movie, there is need of a special, cars and stuff like this, and they design this kind of thing. They're probably designers, of course, compared to a product designers who creates like the iPod. We create things, we create illustration for products that eventually could be built on set, for example, but actually they don't have, most of the time, they don't have to work like a product that you go and buy. You know what I mean? So no matter what, there is a part of design, there is a part of art, because there has to be something also beautiful. It has to be something also that allows, that tells the story, that helps telling the story. So this is what I do, and I'm more specialized in environments and in creating and using cinematography to create this keyframes of environments and mood and atmosphere that sometimes they help the director sell and get financed for the movie that he wants to direct. Or if the project is already greenlit, it's a lot of illustration that are made to be able eventually to then understand, even from a budget point of view, how we are going to build this world. And this is one part. So it comes in pre-production. It could also come, in visual effects, I mean, when we are in post-production, but actually, let's make it simple. So this is pre-production. Then the matte painter instead is a job that is very old. And actually, if you think about, Gone with the Wind, I mean, movies of the 50s and 40s, they already were doing matte paintings because they had to extend some sets. And at the time, they were using oil paint on glass layers. So there were incredible artists painting these amazing paintings on glass, yes. And so you had, for example, the foreground where actually they shot the actors and the foreground. And then eventually this was extended with paintings, you know what I mean? So this is the same job. Of course, what changed nowadays is technology. The technology allowed us, first of all, to change from analog to digital. So nowadays we use computers to create these sets. So these landscapes. Nowadays we can even create completely full, what I call CG, so computer graphics environments. You know what I mean? Because technology allows the director to, and allows the director to be able really to tell their stories, let's say, without limits. Then there are obviously some limits, but no matter what, we help them to create this environments. And sometimes this is also an answer to budget problems. For example, shooting in New York is very expensive. So often they go to Vancouver, they shoot, but then they have to embellish, let's say, the shot and make it look like it's New York. This is an example. Or if you're talking a movie like a period drama, of course, London is not the same as it was in 1800s. You know what I mean? So we have to recreate these things. And then it's all about designing the production. How do we create this? Do we build the foreground and the sets, on a sound stage? Or we do everything digital, or we do the soundstage and then we extend with matte paintings. So no matter what, these are the two, extreme, the opposite of the production. Let's say the pre-production and then post-production. Okay, so concept art is in pre-production, matte painting then is in post-production. But eventually nowadays the techniques blend. So it's something that I like because no matter what, my interest is always in creating a sort of atmosphere and mood through visuals. Okay, so thinking about the story, what is the story, what's happening in the story, and translating that into images.
Yes.
I hope I've been able to explain a little bit.
No, you definitely did. For me, even because I've seen your work. For me, when you go on your website, you break it down on your show reel of how you do things.
Yes, exactly.
So for me, I have a better understanding of how it all works. When it's explained, I will say to everybody go into Marco's website. I'll make him tell you his website before we end the podcast. But if you go on his website, you will see the breakdown of what he does and how he actually does it, which will explain exactly what he's just said just now. Another question that I have for you, which is what somebody threw at me actually to ask, was how do you earn a living and sustain that living to do what you love? Because it's hard for anybody in this industry or any creative industry to sustain what they're doing. How do you feel that you sustain your living and are able to make an income where you can continue to do what you love?
So I would say that at the beginning of my career, I was, like I was saying before, I had to leave my country and I had to start traveling. I had to go where the work was. Yeah. At the time, for example, it was London, because from Italy, it was the closest hub where they were doing proper work. Okay. Proper work meaning high quality work in advertisement and movies. And after that, I lived in London, and then I had to follow what the job was, and actually, so from London, for example, I had to travel, and I lived then in Australia on the two different coasts. I went to the US. I lived in the US. I lived in Canada. So that is a part of my career in which I was going from contract to contract. Of course, for this kind of projects, the contracts are not full time. I mean, they hire you if you're a freelancer. They hire you for 6 months to a year, or even less. It depends. And definitely when you start working, of course, it's like you hopping on a train. And if you do a good job, then no matter what the industry, the entertainment industry, even nowadays, if you think about what they do with TV, and stuff, there is a lot of demand for content and then for execution, let's say. So there is a lot of work. Of course, compared to when I started, there's much more competition. Then also it's a kind of work where, you know, there are a lot of people who are still working in studio. So what I did till for 12 years was, no matter what, traveling a lot and living the gypsy life and going from contract to contract, okay, which was awesome. And if you want to go back to it, but it's not for everyone. But then again, I knew since the beginning that I didn't want to do that life forever. Okay. So I was living in New York, and I met this French girl. And eventually, this was 10 years ago, but actually we started living in New York, and then she starts following me. But then it was the right time when actually I was 35, I think 36, or even more. And actually, no matter what, it was the time for me to think, okay, maybe I can, let's say, try to settle down and work remotely. So let's put aside the situation nowadays with the virus and things. I've been working remotely now for 6 years, okay, since I came to Paris. But this is a difficult step because when you do this, then it becomes even more difficult because you have to always be, for example, present online. Nowadays, it's a big challenge, and it's also different nowadays than it was before, obviously, but it's something that no matter what, right now, for example, I don't know, I just wrapped up a project, I don't know what I'm going to do next week. But nowadays I can afford this because before I built a certain kind of network and relationship with studios, and nowadays, even remotely, they give me work because they know me, because I've been working with them before. So, you know, a career like this, you cannot only be good, and I'm not saying I am, I think that I'm not that much the more I grow. But what I'm saying is that it's not only what you can do, but actually your personality is very important. Above all, when you decide to be a freelancer.
That's true.
Because you have to have this kind of personality in which, you know, I mean, you have to have a thick skin and be strong, because you have no idea. If people look at my, you know, about page, so in my experience, I did so many things, but it was tough. And I've been, you know, I found closed doors so often. I've been able to go to the US to work, which was a dream, you know, but before doing that, you have no idea how many rejections I had. And this is not for everyone, because there are people it depends on how you are, you know what I mean? That's why we go back, for example, to be prepared. And of course, I want to quote, I want to talk about the fact that I did many years of sport and martial arts, because this is something that no matter what, builds you as a person. And this brings, you know, builds, if you want, the strength that when you're younger, you express by fighting, let's say with punches and kicks. But then this is something that is in your head. It's a way of developing a certain kind of attitude that allows you to go through a career which is really tough. So nowadays, even after 20 years and more of career, I have always a question mark, what I'm going to do in 2 months. And for example, during the lockdown for probably 3 months, 2 months and a half, I've now been working. I never had any offer. So you have to be prepared to something like this. Now, of course, we're talking about extreme situations, but the life of a freelancer is like, you know, tides, high waves, a lot of work that always seems to come at the same time. And then moments in which there is nothing. And so it's also, what do you do in those moments that makes the difference, and how you prepare. So for example, I have a rent, you know, I have expenses, I have a son. If I was spending everything every month, everything that I earn, I would be stupid. I couldn't do this. You know what I mean? So you have to learn also that, you know, you have to plan, and you have to make the right decisions. Then nowadays, even if, like I was saying before, I was mainly a matte painter, I was doing 3D. Then recently, I mean, 5-6 years, I moved more into pre-production, like I was saying before, because I'm interested in this. And so I have clients who knew me from before, because nowadays I am 44, and there are concept artists who have just been doing that. They're better than me, younger than me, cheaper than me also, which is also important. And so it's difficult now to fight, let's say, against them, even if the fight is very different. But no matter what I'm saying is that there's a lot of competition. So I had to put myself in a situation in which no matter what, I could try. And actually, for example, to be able to just, veer towards this pre-production side that I was interested into, I had to start saying no to some kind of jobs that I've been doing for so long, because I needed to find the time to be able to study, to continue to I had to learn, I had to study a lot, you know what I mean? And so that's even a difficult choice. And so this is what I'm saying. I think also having a certain kind of personality and developing a certain kind of personality is very important in this job, in my industry, above all when you want to be a freelancer, because I could have continued working in studios, but of course, you're also then dependent on where the work is. Maybe they could hire you, but even in this industry, even if you're hired, from a month to another, everything can change. That's because true. This kind of studio, they contract and they expand based on needs, obviously, and so not even being a full-time artist in one of those studios would have, given me the, security of work. So there are people who can be super talented, super awesome, but they need security. I instead live this as a challenge, because at the end of the day, what I do, and if I succeed, is, I would say, 90% up to me, because then of course, who is important, and the fact that the production designer, visual effects, if they need someone, visual effects supervisor, if they need someone, they say, okay, to the people they know, do you know someone who could do this job? So the word of mouth is important. But what I'm saying is that no matter what, then I have to show a portfolio. I don't have to show a piece of paper saying, okay, this is what I did, ? Or also I am the son of this guy or this girl, you know what I mean? So this is my name. No, and I always love this. I have to show that I can do the job. So even nowadays, even when there are moments in which it's difficult, I know that it's up to me. So it's up to me to sit down and work my ass off. Mm-hmm. And that will be, I think that if you are with the right, state of mind, I think you work hard, you will eventually succeed. Because if I say this, then please stop me, because otherwise I will never stop. And people probably now are sleeping. But I'm saying is that it's very important, the concept of talent, which is something that I always talk to people about, but only I think people in the creative industry can understand this, because often people are saying, okay, this guy, this famous painter, blah, blah, they were born with talent, and it's like it's a gift from God. And it's a way for me to, they have to justify themselves. Okay, I'm not even gonna try, because no matter what, he has something more than me. And actually this is BS, because I realized that no matter what talent, you can have a predisposition towards something. And I had it, talking about martial arts, so certain things that comes easier for you. But talent for me is real and honest passion, and having the guts to be able to do the sacrifices and the hard work. And only the hard work, which of course comes from a real passion, will allow you to learn, to become better, and eventually then to succeed, to find work. That's it. It's very simple. Yeah. It's very simple. But this is what I believe in.
How do you know when to say no to a project, Marco? How do you know when to collaborate with the right project? And how do you know when to say no, even if the project is right for you?
I think that, it's a kind of instinct that comes from experience, I think. I generally decided at the time when I needed, okay, I'm interested in this kind of work, but I studied something different. For example, I was studying a lot of 3D animation, but actually I didn't study so much painting and traditional art and crafts, which are the basis of what a concept artist does. And so I had to go back and to fill the void and fill the gap of knowledge that I didn't have, because I was concentrating on something else, which was 3D. And to do that, I needed time. And so I started saying no to projects that were something that I've been doing for a while. And I knew that wouldn't have enriched me and wouldn't have taught me certain things, so that I could save the time to do something else. Of course, I could do that because I was not at the time worried, okay, I have to pay the rent at the end of the month. This is not something that you can do when you're starting out, you know what I mean? So it's always, it's experience, it's planning, it's designing. Even this is designing your career, designing when is the right time to make a move. And then it's intuition. When you hear the clients, they come to you, but you don't know where they are. You try to find the work that they did before and there is nothing, and there's hyper enthusiastic about working with you for this huge project. I saw so many of them, and I worked at the beginning of my career with so many of them that now I don't trust them anymore. I mean, I developed a nose, to smell the something weird, something stinks here.
Oh, we've all had that a few times. I'm telling you, we've all had that. Who has been the biggest support system? I know you spoke a little bit about your father being one of the people that have supported you throughout your whole life, but is there anybody else that you feel within the industry who has supported you in your work?
Like I was saying before, probably I said this before we were recording, when I was in Italy, I had the chance to work for this visual effects supervisor, American, who had a lot of experience, and he was called because he knew the owner of the studio that I was working for. So I've been very lucky. He came to Italy for a few months just to try to save this project, which was going very bad. And he's the one who made me believe in myself and made me understand, okay, so, I mean, you're not that bad. And if you want to do this properly, I think you should go somewhere else. And this was someone who really has been very important for me. And actually it's funny because 10 years after, not 10 years after, actually, no, it was probably like 8, something like this. I've been lucky enough to win an award in Los Angeles, and it was in the hall, when I won the award. So it was awesome because I could see him again, shake his hands after so long. But if I didn't meet him at that time, this wouldn't have happened. I would have stayed in Italy. I would have been okay with the kind of work that I was doing. You know what I mean? I would have followed probably a life more on the rail tracks. You know what I mean? I don't know if you understand what I mean. Yeah. Sense. Instead, I decided, okay, no, I mean, this is interesting. It made me think, okay, maybe I can do this. And then, okay, it's about fighting your fears, the fear of leaving what you know, as usual. I'm not saying anything crazy, I mean, let's try. But actually, I'm so glad that I put my foot on that plane for the first time to go to London to have an interview, because it really changed my life. And not only from a career perspective, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's also, and it's very important for me as a man, as a human experience, the fact of traveling, of meeting people from everywhere, because this is awesome about our industry, is the fact that, in the studios in London, I met people coming from everywhere. I was coming from a small town in Italy, and for me, they were like, different colors, different culture, but it was awesome. We became a family, and this is important for your brain more than anything else. So now, of course, I'm older and I think about certain things. I'm a father, so I'm more pedantic. I'm more, you know what I mean? It's normal, but I think about certain things. Those are the important things that also nowadays inspire me from my work. You know what I mean? So it's not only the technical things, because I have a lot of young guys who write to me to understand, okay, so how can I start? How can I do this? Can I do this from home immediately?
Yes.
And in a way, you can do this for sure. And even if you think about what we can do, what we're living these days, these months, is crazy, and you're forced to stay inside. But actually, for me, the experience of traveling, of always starting from scratch, if you want, with a new team, with new people, when no one knows you, that was something that was really more than what they paid me, That was really my payoff to become who I am today.
I love that. I definitely love that. What's been the most empowering project that you have ever worked on that changed your He's shaking his head. He's like, oof.
No, you know why? Because I'm sorry if I interrupt you, but
No.
I know because generally they ask me the question, and you see, I worked on so many things, and I even don't even remember them, and I have a lot of good memories, but eventually the projects they just everyone forgets them.
Yes.
But the experience.
That's what I want to ask
project,
you.
Yes. So it's not the project itself. I worked on very high-end work, and without naming names, sometimes from a creative point of view, it was not the best. Maybe I worked on some smaller commercials, and they were much more rewarding creatively. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's not about the project. It's to be honest, I have a lot of nostalgia about those beginning years in London when I was studying, for example, working on Harry Potter, which at that time was huge for the London industry, because it was my first experience abroad. I was 24, which is already not so young, but for Italy, it's something, wow, you're a child and you leave your family at 24. How dare you? I mean, it's like, it was no matter what. It was the first experience living, sharing an apartment with other people who I didn't know, but then going to the studio and working 13 hours a day with these people, trying to achieve trying to work on these movies that eventually I would have seen my name on the big screen. It was fantastic because it was really a dream coming true, and you were working already on really high-end projects, but in a sort of environment that it was not like in a bank, let's say. Nothing against people who work in a bank. What I'm saying is that it was much less formal. Yes. We were dressed like we wanted. At 6 we were going to the pub to drink a beer and then back to the studio to finish because we had to do something, you know what I mean? So we were living around the project, but we were doing, and actually this is important, you were working alongside like-minded people who were always pushing you. So this is going back to what I was saying before. You can work remotely, and it's awesome for certain things, but then you miss out on, the human relationship, someone who inspires you, someone who's better than you, for sure. There are tons, and it's obvious, and you know what I mean? The teamwork. This is awesome. This is something that obviously it's something that now I'm missing for other, no matter what, positive things that, working remotely brings. But this is something that, if someone has to start now, maybe it won't be the case because things have changed. We live in different years, and but having the chance to work with other people in teams is something that really makes you grow as an artist and above all as a man or a woman.
See, you say so many things that resonate. So that means so much to me just to hear you say that. What is the best advice somebody has ever given you in your life?
The best advice. Look, I remember this thing. I'm sure there are other things that now I'm not remembering, and they were maybe even more important. But I remember one of my masters in martial arts, and I was like 14, and this guy used to told me once, and I remember, it's funny because I remember like it was yesterday, but he said, even the dumbest person can teach you something. And this is very true, and we were talking, and he was a master, we were doing martial arts, we were fighting, so I don't know why he said this, but actually this, if you think about it, it's awesome because it's a way that, puts you in, okay, no matter what, definitely I can learn from you. You can teach me things also because you have a different life, a different kind of experience. And it's awesome. It's awesome also to be, that's why I'm very curious about other people, which sometimes, in friendship can be not the best because people say, okay, mind your own business. But actually, no, I'm really curious about human beings, about stories, about, how you end up being where you are, you know what I mean? And this probably comes from there. I remember this. It's funny how memory really stores certain moments, and actually when it happens, you have no idea. But actually, it's funny. It's awesome about being human, about the brain or the soul, whatever you believe in or what you want to think about it. But actually, it's funny because now after 30 years, something like this, 20 years more, I still remember this thing. No, 30 years. Sorry.
Time flies.
I'm old, yeah.
Time flies. You're not that old. You're not old. You still have plenty of life ahead of you.
But no hair on my head. And I'm glad this is a podcast.
Listen,
so people can...
If I was to take off my cap and show you how big my hair is, I could give you some of my hair, no problem. true.
That would be helpful, to be honest.
It's fine. Don't worry about it at all. So, say you wake up, and I always say this question to everybody. Say you wake up tomorrow morning and you look in your bank account and you have infinity money. So, you have so much money. You have more than anybody in the 1% league. So, you wake up in the morning and you go, oh my gosh, I have all this money. What would you change in the industry that you work in to help other people to progress in what they want to do in it?
So my industry, for example, the film industry, that is a little bit different than the advertisement, because visual effects, no matter what is used, I mean, both commercials and movies, they need visual effects, high end. So, but they're different. There's not so much money in the film industry, and unfortunately, visual effects people are not this respected. Meaning that if you think about it, when I don't remember a few years ago, the movie Life of Pi, I don't know if you saw it, won the Visual Effects Academy Award. And when the company won the Visual Effects Academy Award, they were going bankrupt. They went bankrupt, and they won a Visual Effects Award at the same time. So there's not so much money, because even nowadays there is not so much, let's say, recognition for all the work that we do to bring those movies to life, unfortunately. And some companies, let's say, no matter what, they play a lot with the fact that this is a job that comes from passion. So there are kids who, even to have a door open in the industry would do this job for free, because this is really a hobby that becomes a job. And so I'm sure, like it was back in the days, there are people taking advantage of this. So I would try to give more. But if you think about it, it's sad, because even in the credits at the end of the movies, at the end of films, when you are in theater, outside of the fact that no one sits down to see all the people who have been able to bring that film to life, which is not only Leonardo DiCaprio, who, no matter what, I love. What I'm saying is that not only the actors or the director, but there are so many people working so hard in so many different departments that no matter what, it's pretty sad to see that no matter what, the movie's over, okay, I go home. And actually, if you stay and if you sit down at the end of a movie, you will see so many people. And actually, the visual effects people, they come last. And this is a little bit, it's also offensive, meaning because we work many, many hours to be able to do so much. Then it depends on the movie, obviously. There are beautiful movies that have nothing to do with visual effects. And actually, I don't like so much visual effects driven movies, like the Marvel things, Transformers personally. Even if this is where I come from, it's not my favorite genre, let's say. But I know what it means to bring those images to life, to help the director tell a story. And actually, even nowadays, we're not that, respected, if you want. Even if now I do something. That's why I also moved a little bit more in pre-production when I have to say more, from a creative point of view, when I have a more one-to-one relationship, you know what I mean? Because the rest is becoming also factory work, you know what I mean? And it's also a pity. So I'm sure that a lot of people are doing this job and they're not super well treated. So I would do something if I had to do something for my industry.
Yeah.
But if I was so rich, I would do also probably something else for other people who are not in this industry, no matter what.
See, I like that. Most definitely. Marco, I know we spoke about it a little bit before when we spoke about giving up and having challenges within our lives. And I know that you were going to talk about it a little bit more. But was there ever a time in your profession or in your life where you wanted to give up because you felt like there wasn't enough going on, or you felt like you were saying, you didn't have enough funds or leaving your family? What would you say to people who are in this predicament at the moment, especially with everything going on and not finding work because of what's going on? What would you say to them to help them? And what did you do in the position where you felt like you didn't have support?
Well, first of all, the times are different. So I remember having these moments. Mm-hmm. Thank God not so often, but there was a moment in which probably when I was coming back from London the first time, and there was nothing, on the horizon, you know what I mean? So I had to stay home. I had to go back for a while to my parents' place. And I remember that probably it was the moment, I have this memory, I think I experienced what is a panic attack. I remember waking up at night and a little bit, yes, and not being able to breathe well. Maybe it was very light. I don't want to make it too serious. Definitely it was nothing so serious. But I remember that I was thinking about the future a lot, because also, if you think about it, I had the weight of taking a decision that outside of my family, a lot of people were saying, you're crazy. This is something also interesting, because a lot of friends, for example, I was doing something so different and people were saying, okay, but are you sure? Why don't you do more normal things? You know what I mean? I was taking a risk, and this is something that not everyone is happy to accept or open to accept. Nowadays, it's difficult. What I mean, at the end of the day, what you can do, if you really have this passion, is no matter what, put your head down and keep on improving and keep on studying. Nowadays, compared to when I started, for example, there is so much information, so much availability in terms of knowledge, online even. Before, you had to go to attend certain kind of schools that were so expensive, above all in the United States, for example. There are huge schools. Definitely, they give you a preparation that is incredible, but is it worth all the money that you have to spend? Not anymore. Nowadays, online, you can find very good things, but at the same time, as a coin, two faces, there is even too much. So how do you find the right things? It's not easy. So, but at the end of the day, you have to, everything is open in front of you. You have to have the real interest in, and also spending the time to understand what could be good for you and what couldn't. And so, above all, at the beginning of everything, who are you? Now I'm playing, okay, I'm saying things like a guru, even if it's something very, very simple. But at the end of the day, what do you like to do? Because think about social media. Nowadays, you have to be present online, because even client could see you, could find you online. But actually, then you see what other people are doing. And this could be depressing, because you see that other people are so great and they can do amazing things, but you don't see what's behind that, or the failures, or the situation. It's a different life. So you never have to compare yourself to other people. It's very dangerous nowadays, above all when you're young and you're not even so structured as a man or a woman to be able to face this. So that's why, to go back to me, I'm glad that I don't live this anymore. I mean, I have to use social media. I have to be visible, above all because I'm a freelancer and I work remotely, but I'm not, this didn't become a sickness for me. You know what I mean? It's not, I don't value myself because I have 2 followers or 2,000, you know what I mean? I don't care. I post my stuff and that's it, because I know how shallow that is. I understand though that for young people, that's a big problem in general, and even more in our industry, because you see professionals doing amazing things, or no matter what, even people who are starting with you, like you, and they do great work. But at the end of the day, behind that great work, of course, there could be different conditions. They might be luckier, they might have more time, but at the base, there's always one thing: hard work. So even if it's tough and you have to learn so many things, and painting and drawing and composition and acting, if you want to be an animator, so many things, it's a huge world, but you can do it. It's up to you. Then you have a family and you have to pay the rent. I cannot say to everyone, you just tomorrow, give up everything else. And if you want to do this, forget about your family and stuff, you will be able to do it, because then it depends on everyone's life. We have different walk of lives, and then we come from different walk of life. We have different situations, and this is important. So if you're a father, you have a family, and you say, you know what, ciao, I go away, I just spent 23 hours out of 24 studying this, then you're not very smart, I think. Or people, for example, who neglect the family to work on this huge project that could do something for your career, sure. But then at the end of the day, like I was saying before, projects and what we do, I mean, it gets forgotten, but actually the connection that we have with people and what we do for other people, and your family, the people who you have close to you, it's more important than this, you know what I mean? So there is a possibility for everyone. Above all, this is really a renaissance moment for art. because what you can do online is incredible. Think about music, you know it so well. You know, I have the hobby, and it's incredible what you can do nowadays with technology, and you really can also do stuff and be visible and be found by people. So I want to believe, because I feel this, I always felt this passion and the fact that I could really fulfill my dreams. So nowadays you can still, and I hope you, as a young guy, a young girl, you still feel this energy and will to succeed. You have to do it, obviously, with your mind, you know, with the proper mindset, with the proper design of your career, by thinking about the important things and how to do certain things in the proper way. But definitely it's possible to be able to enter this industry and do great work.
See, I love that. Let's talk about success, Marco. What does success mean to you as a person? Define what
Again,
it means.
this is definitely, has nothing to do with money, but for me, success nowadays is happiness. So finding what makes you happy, and for me, in this moment of my life, is the fact of being free, to be able to take on the projects that I want to work on, and to be able to have the freedom to say no if I don't want to work. So to have the freedom of choosing what I do with my own time, because time is the real currency nowadays. It's not the money, but it's really having the time to be with your family and not neglect them, and to be, you know what I mean, with your partner, to be with your family and sons and daughters and stuff, or to be able to do what you love. Like I was saying at the beginning, I've been lucky because I found when I was young what I really wanted to do, and I never looked back. There are certain moments, even now, when I think, you know, the imposter syndrome. How, I mean, I don't deserve to be here. I suck. You know, my partner, she knows these moments pretty well. You know, because nothing works. Thank God it happens, and it's absolutely normal that it happens. And I think I'm sorry that you have to embrace even these moments and get away, in my case, for example, from the computer, and go out, you know what I mean, distract and try to refocus. But yes, I think success for me is really the fact of having time to be able to do what I love. Because every day, waking up, I really wake up every day and I think, okay, wow, I can learn something new today. And this is something amazing, because while I was not doing anything at school growing up, and I was a problem for my family and stuff, then I found my passion, and learning became my drug. Even too much, because nowadays, with, like I was saying before, with the offer that we have of information, of courses about everything, you know what I mean? If I can put my hands on something new, I will spend so much time, even if then becomes even too much, you know what I mean? Because even this, having the understanding how to deal with these things and how to use all this knowledge and to filter this knowledge is very important, you know what I mean? But that's my drug, you know. You can find everything about anything. If you want to do something, you can really find information on how to do things, and this is extremely positive as it's dangerous.
Yes, I love that too. Oh man, it's perfect. I have two more for you, Marco, before I let you go. And my second to last question is, what would you like your legacy to be when you are not in this world anymore?
Well, I mean, this is it's interesting because I have a young kid. So I remember my father saying that no matter what, you should be a parent, and you should be a parent several times, because no matter what, you make mistakes. And so I really hope that, not by imposition or not by, you know, breaking his balls and be a pain in the ass to push him to do what I do. I really hope that by imitation, by seeing what I do, and above all, not what I do, but how I do the things that I do and the passion that I have, he will find passion for something. He will really be able to say, okay, this is my calling. This is what I love to do. This is what I want my life to be around. You know, I mean, I hope I will be able to give him the tools to find this, because finding this, in my opinion, means being happy. I hope I will be able to give him the tools to realize, to show him that to be able even to achieve this, you have to be very honest with yourself, which is very difficult. No, I mean, I'm not talking about my career. I'm talking about human beings. It's very difficult. We are surrounded by so many people lying to themselves in the morning because, in a way, it's what they know. In a way, it's easier to be stay in a situation that gives you a little bit of happiness, because risking the rest, I don't know what happens. I'm afraid. And it's not because they're bad people. It's just that they don't have the tools to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to try. And if I fail, that's great. I'm going to fail again. So I hope in a way that my son will not have this great predisposition of, let's say, talent, like the other people are thinking talent is, because I hope he will realize that he needs hard work to achieve. He can achieve anything he wants if he will put the right heart and hard work in it. So this is what I hope for him, who is which is my legacy.
I love that. Thank you. Finally, my last question to you, Marco, is where can we find you on all your social medias if somebody, just like myself, would like to get in contact with you about what you do?
Well, there is everything. Like I was saying, I mean, I have some social media, but generally my website, which is www.marcoiozzi, my name, iozzi.com. Maybe you will write it down somewhere. It would be better than my pronunciation.
Nothing wrong with you.
It would be easier to find me. But from there, you can find everything, and you can contact me, and that's it. Then, of course, I have Instagram, but everything is there, and it's, that's where you can find me.
Marco, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Ask People podcast. You've been a superb guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
No, thank you so much. And guys, thank you so much for listening to the Ask People podcast. And please remember, you can subscribe to Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and any other platform that you prefer listening to. Please also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also donate to the Ask People podcast by simply going to the Savia Rocks website or just typing in paypal.me/Ask People podcast. Thank you for listening. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another.
I think that I heard certain podcasts, and I think what you're doing is awesome. I listened to the podcast, for example, about creativity and this kind of things, and I was happy that you called me to do this, because I immediately understood that we were on the same page for so many things, and also because you said something at the beginning during that podcast about being thankful, which is something that that is very strong in me as well.